PNG. You guys should know what that is, right? You guys know what ping
Of
is,
course.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like pinggoogle.com.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of net user?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
So net user tells you all the accounts on the computer. That's another CMD, net user. And then task MGR is to open up task manager.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a really important command, like for you, like for everyone. How do you check if the computer is logged in as a local account or as a domain account? Do you know how to do that on CMD?
As a regular account or an ad?
So like
when you do user all caps with the money sign in front.
So user like this.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Like that.
Yep. Wait, press enter.
Nope.
That's not a command. Just...
I'm trying to think. Or was it that was for the path, right? Or something.
Yeah,
like
so
that?
the path. Yeah. So how do you check if the computer is logged in as a local account or a domain account? Do you know what the command is?
No.
You guys ever seen that before?
Uh-uh.
This command. If I teach you this command is the easiest command in the world. Look, I'll show you. Who am I?
Oh
my God.
Yeah. So if you do who am I, it tells you the account you're logged into. You're logged in as test, right? And it says desktop 01, but then you don't know if this is on the domain, right? So you know what you do? You do who am I space, and you do / ? Right? And it gives you what the commands to run, right? So if you do who am I, FQDN, it tells you if it's in a domain controller or not. It says unable to distinguish fully qualified domain. So that means that this computer is not in a domain. It's a local account. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So this is like if you ever get stuck on someone, like someone's asking you a question, right, in a job interview, and they're like, "Is this computer on a domain or not?" And it's like, I would type "who am I" / /FQDN, and then you just press enter. And if it says it's gonna say, you press enter, it's gonna say the domain controller or the domain that the computer is logged into. Otherwise, you'll get this error message because it's not on a domain. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that easy command, who am I? Don't forget that command. It's a very, very useful command.
Who's interviewing you? Like if it's a technical manager, like is it, compared to like an HR person?
Oh yeah. If it's an HR person and they ask you that question, you'd be like, yeah, our local account is just a regular computer. Our domain account is managed by your system administrator.
Okay.
That's how you say it to them because they don't understand what you're talking about, So you have to make it a little more simple. So that would be my answer for them since they're like they're interviewing you and you don't know like an HR person is not tech savvy. They're like, what are you talking about, domain? What the hell's a domain controller? Like, what are you talking about? So instead of saying that, you're like, oh yeah, a local account is a local account like your personal computer, like it's out of the box. Like for HR, it's out of the box kind of thing. It's not managed by anything. And then a domain account or domain computer is managed by your system administrator. If that makes sense. That's how I would talk to them. They, oh, okay, I know what you mean now. Like that. That would be the answer for that. So, do you know the difference between a distribution group and a security group?
No.
So you ever heard of that? You know what that is? Anyone?
No.
I don't think so.
So a security group is it's a group that you create to explicitly give security rights for certain things like a folder, like a computer, like group policy, all those things. This is a security group, right? A distribution group is a group, it's a group or an email. So like it's an email or alias that you add everyone to it. And then if you email that distribution group, it goes to everyone that's part of that group, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in Office 365, you have security groups are not done on Office 365. Security groups are done in Active Directory, right? AD. And don't worry about it because I'm gonna give you an Office 365 license, so then you'll understand what I'm talking about. Once we're gonna go over it too, so don't worry about it. But typically, a security group, you add someone to it if you're trying to do some sort of security permissioning, right? So you add them, you create a security group, and then you give them access to certain things. It's just security is access to certain things, to make it simple. And then a distribution group is a group. It's a group email. So it's a group email that you create on Office 365. And if everyone's part of that group, they all get the same email. So instead of me emailing 100 people, right? It's like, you can email 100 people. Why would I do that? Why don't I just create a distribution group, add everyone to that group, and everyone receives the same email in one shot? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So you create a distribution group because if you add everyone to it, or all the people that are part of that group get that email. That's the purpose of it.
And it's just for email, nothing else?
That's just for email, yes. So in Exchange 365, a distribution group usually is used for emails. So you will create like I'll give you an example, right? Your Helpdesk, right? You use Helpdesk. You're applying for Helpdesk jobs, right? So when you work in Helpdesk, you're part of that. You're part of a distribution group, right?
Right.
And I don't want to email everyone. Why would I do that? Why can't I just create one group and add everyone to it, and then it goes straight to everyone instead of me emailing them one by one? So that's basically what it does. That's the purpose of a distribution group. And if you have any questions, just ping me.
All right. So next time, next week, same time.
Yes, next week. We're gonna be doing this for a couple of weeks, and then once I feel like you're ready, I'll start asking you like technical questions, and then we'll start doing like we start practicing technical questions. So you could be like this, answering questions.
Yeah.
And then you can start applying for jobs after that. But it's gonna take a couple. It takes time. It's gonna take a couple of weeks. We're doing it slowly. I don't want to go too fast.
Are we gonna talk about printers at all?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Unfortunately, okay.
Yes.
It's basic stuff.
Yep. So anyway, I'll let you guys go. Practice the Soho stuff. I'm gonna give you project 2. Either I give it to you later tonight, or it's gonna be Monday morning because I'm off tomorrow and I'm off Tuesday. So I'm gonna give you something.
Okay.
And
Cool.
we'll go over it on Sunday again. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, man.
Cool.
Let you guys go.
All right, guys.
Thank you,
you.
Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, man. No problem, man. You guys
Appreciate
take care.
All right, take it easy.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys don't know this, I don't know if it's gonna make sense for you guys, but you cannot run domain commands on a computer on CMD if the computer is not part of the domain. I don't know if you know that.
Wait, one more time.
So you cannot run CMD commands that have to do with domain controller if the computer is not on the domain. So for example, like, see how I have the server right here, right? The server I'm connected to right now, right? Mm-hmm. If I go over here in my start menu, this is my, so where I am right now, do you guys still see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, see how this is my regular computer screen? Like if I go here and do CMD, and if I run GP update force, right, like this, like this is gonna work, right? But if I run, for example, there are different CMD commands, right? So if I run net user, and then I put the name of the account here, I put main user, like that's my account, main user, and I put /domain, right? That's not gonna work on this. It's not gonna work on this computer because it's not on the domain. So if the computer is not, if you have to understand like Windows 10. So this is why I tell people to understand how Windows 10 works, because if you have Windows 10, right? Like this is this PC, right click this PC, go to properties, right? This is a professional version, right? This computer is not on the domain, right? It's not on the domain. You cannot run CMD commands that have to do with the domain if the computer is not on the domain. Does that make sense? You guys, let me know if you guys are confused. I'll explain it more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So this command that I just ran, it won't work on this computer because it's not part of a domain. If I add it to a domain, then it will work. But if it's not on a domain, you can't do it. It's not gonna let you do it. No matter how hard you try, some CMD commands will not work on it. Like domain CMD commands, like regular commands will work, but CMD commands will not work. Like the domain ones will not work because this is not part of a domain. So that's why I tell people like go, because I'm going over this because this happened to me actually. So I had a girl that I was helping her with her computer, and she's like, Kevin, why is the domain command not working on your computer or on my computer? She asked me, right? And I'm like, is it on the domain? She's like, what the hell are you talking about? What's a domain? Like that, like things like that, So you have to understand that it has to be part of a domain in order for you to run those commands. It's not going to let you do it because the computer has not been joined yet. Once the computer has been joined, then you can actually run those commands. But if the computer's not joined on a domain, it's not going to work. So you guys understand that, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool, right? So to make it simple, like, what does that mean? Is basically like what you said. Yeah, the DHCP allocates IP addresses, right, to a computer. So it could be like 10.1. Blah blah blah, right? Whatever the number is, and then that computer gets an IP address, and then it goes and gets a IP address, and then it goes on the network. So if it's static, you manually set up an IP address on it. So there's dynamic, and then there's static. So this is dynamic. Dynamic is it manually allocates an IP address from the server, and then static is you manually give it an IP address. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I did a PowerPoint slide on this in one of my videos. So basically, you have a DNS, like a domain or URL name. Then you have a reservation. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
Yeah.
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 Basically, you're reserving an IP address to give it to a specific device, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, okay, I want this computer to have an IP address, and I don't want it because when you do reservation, the IP doesn't change over time; it stays the same. So you could do 10.1.1.1, right? Like whatever the number is, right? If you reserve the IP address, then it never changes; it stays the same.
Yeah.
So you don't have to keep giving it because what happens is that you have a lease time right here. This is the DHCP lease time. So basically, what a lease time is that the IP changes after a certain amount of days. So I'm not sure if you guys ever had that issue in your house or in your job. Depending on how you're set up in your job, I don't know if you ever had that issue where your computer is working fine, but then for some odd reason your printer is not working, right? And the printer is not working because it's set to DHCP. It's not set to static. So then the IP changes again and again and again. So you have to keep re-adding the printer over and over again. Does that make sense?
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So like I don't know if you ever had that. I had that issue in one of my jobs. So basically, I would add a printer, right? And then I have to add it again. Then I have to add it again. Then I have to add it again. And then it's like, why does it keep making me do that? And then I check is the IP changes over time, So if it's not a static IP, then basically you have to keep adding that printer over and over again, which is extremely annoying, So that's the reason why you reserve the IP as reservation. You reserve the IP address because, and this is mainly for printers. It says right here, DNS for servers or printers right here. You mainly reserve it for printers because what happens is if you have a printer on a work environment, what happens if the IP changes, right? Like the number, the IP that's assigned to it changes, and then no one could add the printer, no one could do anything, no one could print or anything. That would just be a headache, right? So why would you do all that? That doesn't make any sense. So instead, you add a static IP address to that printer or that computer or that specific thing you want to do. Does that make sense?
So how would you do it on a printer? You do it on the one of the computers on the same network?
Yeah. So you go into the printer settings. Actually, printer has their own settings. You go into the printer settings and you give it a static IP address.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could actually go into the printer. You could click on. You know how you have like the buttons on the printer. You click on the printer, and basically you go into DNS settings and you give it an IP address, and you give it a static IP address, and you hit OK, and you enable it, and that's it.
Okay. So you don't have to put in the IP into the
computer.
Yeah.
So in your job, most computers do not have a static IP. It's set to DHCP automatically in your job. Some companies might have a static IP. It depends where you work, So it really depends where you work. Every company is different. it depends where you work. Yeah, it depends where you work. Exactly. Yeah. So this is the reason why you need to understand subnetting, or you need to understand IP addresses, because if this IP doesn't match, like you see how this how there's like 10.2.2, right? Whatever, right? If these IPs don't match with your server and your job, then your computer cannot be added to a domain. You know, it has to be in the same network. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like if you have a computer, right? If you have a computer and the computer, it does not have the same IP address. This computer does not have the same IP address as your server, then you cannot add it to the domain, because they're two different. They're in different domains. They're different. They're in different DNS settings. They have their own settings. So if the IP is not set up properly or correctly, then you cannot add it to a domain, because they don't talk. They don't see each other. You know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you have to understand IP addresses, because it gets a little tricky. You know, it's complicated with IP addresses.
And how much in Helpdesk will you be messing with this? Is that more network admin stuff, or
That's more network. That's not more network admin. All you care about is ping. You know, ping.google.com. The control C to get out of it. IP config / all. Then you do IP config. Then you would do IP config. You know, IP config flush DNS. You know, things like that, right? There's like the simple commands. If you know how to do ping, IP config, IP release, IP renew, and the other ones that I went over last week, you know, who am I? Like the command who am I? Then you'll be fine. You know, you're not gonna have issues. It's just memorize the simple commands. You know, like if you go to a job interview, right? And I'm giving you an example, right? You go to a job interview tomorrow, right? And the manager's like, oh yeah, you can't connect to this computer. What would be the first thing you would do? Oh, I would make sure that my computer has internet, you know, because you can't connect to this website or whatever if the computer is not on the internet.
Yeah.
And you tell him that, right? And then like, okay, what else would you do? Oh, I would try to ping it. Like I would go into CMD and ping it. So I would go into CMD and ping the website, right? The computer or the website, right? If you tell that to a hiring manager, they're gonna love you because you actually know what you're talking about, you know? So I'd rather you memorize that than you saying, oh, I would go in there, I would check the subnets, I would check the reservations, I would check the lease time. You know, you cannot talk like that in a job interview. It's too much, you know?
Yeah.
You know why I don't teach that? Because the reason why I don't teach that, because when you do that, when you talk too advanced, they're gonna give you advanced questions because of that.
Makes sense.
So then what happens is you're opening yourself for more advanced questions, and then you don't know how to answer it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like you'll say, oh yeah, I know what this is. I know what this is. I know. Okay, so if you know what this is, how do you do this on the server? You know, you're opening yourself to trouble basically. You know, you want to be careful with that, because then you're basically saying that I know more than just Helpdesk. If that makes sense. So just be careful with that. All right, so now I'm going to install the roles in the server. You guys know how to do this, right? Pretty easy, right? Active Directory. I'm gonna add Active Directory now. You guys know how to do this, right? You guys have any questions about this? Let me know.
I think I stopped where we were naming the server. I mean, let me try to follow along. Let me see. Wait a second.
You could always rewatch it, Jonathan, because he's recording.
This is recorded right now.
Yeah.
All right, so right now you're installing the Active Directory into that server.
Yes. So what happens is in real life in IT world, right? If you do Helpdesk, the server is already set up, so you don't gotta set this up. The reason why I'm going over this is so you guys understand you understand how a server works. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because in a real job environment, you already have set up the domain controller. The domain controller is already set up. You don't actually got to do anything. It's already there. So you already have your own account. The computer's already joined the domain. As a help desk person, you already have everything set up for you. You don't got to do anything. So for job experience, I always like to go over this, because then how a domain controller or domain gets set up. Where did it come from? You want to understand the domain, where it came from and how it started, like how it actually got set up, if that makes sense. So then you actually understand how your job environment is set up, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
you were doing
Mhm.
something on Discord the other night, and you
Yep.
saw me, and there was a gentleman there, right? That he does help desk, but he didn't know how to set it up or anything. He
Yep.
touched on many things on AD. So
Yep.
that's great.
Yeah. So you gotta understand you gotta understand the like what we're doing here. We'll do Kevtech. IT.com. That should work. Yeah, and then here you just put the password that you have for your computer. Because and like I said, like in your job, right? In your job environment, this will already be set up. The reason why I'm going over this is so you guys understand where it came from, Because then you go to a job environment tomorrow or the next day, right? You want to understand how did that domain controller get set up, right? So the reason why I'm going over this is that you understand where it came from, or how it started, or how to install it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're like, wait, I know. Okay, I understand what the domain controller is, or I understand how this got set up. Now I could actually, I actually know what it is. I know how I got set up, and I know what my server admin is doing. Like you would understand all this. Like if you understand this and how to set this up and how to do things on the domain controller, you're pretty much good, man. You should be applying for jobs. You have to know all this. You just have to understand what we're doing, if that makes sense. Don't have to memorize all this. Just understand what we're doing, because in real life, this all of what we're doing right now, it's already set up in a job environment. Your computer already is in a domain, and you already have access to Active Directory, and you already have access to do password reset and stuff like that. I want you to understand where it comes from.
Yeah, like the structure of it.
Like the structure of it, like how it got started, or where it got created from, if that makes sense. Because then you're more comfortable with it, as opposed to like going in a job and like, oh wait, I don't understand what the hell this is,
And getting a full grasp of everything.
Yep.
Just to be able to communicate and everything too.
Yep. So this makes sense, right? What we're installing right now, what we're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry for being late, man. I got stuck with something.
That's all.
You guys know already.
No, it's fine. No problem.
I got some crazy videos coming up on YouTube. So I haven't made any videos yet because I've been trying to relax a little bit before I go into like making a lot of videos.
Definitely gotta have your own time.
Yeah, you need to relax.
So on this server, give me a second. Oh, there we go. I'm like, why is it so laggy? Right, there we go. All right. So you can see that it's on the domain because it says Kevtech IT. I don't know if you see this.
Yeah.
So the problem is, and in your job, I don't know if you know this, the problem is in your job, you have this screen instead, and then you cannot tell if it's on the domain or not. How do you know if this computer is on the domain or the server's on the domain?
I thought, wait. Oh, damn. What is it?
Like, how do you know this is on a domain? Like, what would you do here on the screen? Obviously, it's on a domain because it says sign into Kevtech IT, right? So that's one answer right now. How do you know it's on the domain? Like, what else would you do here on the screen to figure out whether it's on the domain or not?
Wait, I did this. Hold on, let me try to do it.
I know from the job that I had, we would just type in like user into the username.
Type user. I type the name called user.
Mhm. That's all we did, and we press enter, and it'll tell us like because I know if it was like Windows 7 or something like that, or 10, depending on that, we will type in something else to see which.
Are you
domain.
asking what to type in that text box? Like what we would type in there?
No. I would say, how do you confirm how do you confirm if this computer is on a domain or not on a domain? Like, how do you what would you press or type in here? You know, kick me out. What would you press and type in here?
Oh man.
You did it the other night. I should remember. That's why when you were doing it on Discord, I was trying to like take notes.
I know. I
Like, what would you press here? Like, what's the easiest way to do it so you don't have a headache on the screen? What would you do?
Isn't it?
I'll go over it. You just
Admin?
click no. You just click the button right here. Look. How do I assign to another domain? You just click on it.
Oh my god! Wait.
It's gonna be like this the whole time.
That's how easy it is.
What's wrong with us? Can't figure that out.
I'm gonna be overthinking the whole entire time. I don't care.
You just click the button. How do I sign into another domain? There's a button down here. You just click on it.
I thought it was like a trick question or something. I don't know.
No, it's not. I'm sure you guys are overthinking it. Don't overthink it.
We always overthink everything.
Either I just click the button right here and that's it.
Oh, we got smoke under my ears.
And you go on the bottom, you click on it right there. How do you sign into another domain? Here we go. Put domain name computer. Domain is this one. The computer name is DC01. Type another domain name and a domain username to sign into another domain. It says it right there.
Oh my god.
If you go on other user, it's right there. It says Kevtech. And you click on it, it says Kevtech. Now, this is what I was talking about, because you said, how do you figure out what the computer name is, right? You can do it on Windows 10. On a server, you can't do it. On Windows 10, you can. So if you do dot slash, it changes the name of it right here. Look, desktop 1. That's how you know what the name of the computer is. You don't gotta click on this. So like if you come here and you don't have this button down here, you do dot slash. What's the name of the computer? Oh, it's desktop 1. It's right here. You do dot slash. It tells you the name of the computer.
Great.
No problem. Did you find out all that? Did you find what we did today like useful, like the hiring stuff and the other things?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You guys weren't expecting that, right?
No, it definitely wasn't.
All right, guys. I'll let you guys go. All right, and exit the
All right.
meeting.
All right, guys.
I'll send you the link when it's done recorded. All right.
Okay. All right, guys. Take it easy.
All right. Take care,
All
guys.
right, guys. Stay
All right,
safe. Thank
stay
you.
safe, guys. All right. Take care. Bye bye.